Okay, this is game 4 of the North American Chess Open. I was playing in the under 1900 section. I won my first game, lost the second game, won the third game, and this is game 4. By now, I've been playing for way too many hours and was getting tired. In this game, I was playing white. E4, C5, we all know that that's the Sicilian. F3, A6. Okay, he was changing the order of the moves, but it really doesn't change the nature of the opening. What I had planned for, if he had went, E6, D6, or F3, I was going to go C3 and break it up that way. But I decided to stay with the main line. This is a little tricky because he hasn't brought out the C6 knight yet, but I didn't think it mattered much. Pawn E5. Here, I started thinking because I want to hold on. Once this knight moves away, I want to be sure to hold on to that weak D5 square. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. Even though I'm making the moves very quickly now, it actually ate up a great deal of time. Knight's attacking the E4, I'm sorry, the E5 pawn. Goes bishop B4. Pin the knight. And now things are requiring thought. I can take the pawn, he takes the knight, I take the bishop, he takes the pawn. He is an isolated pawn. I have double isolated pawns, and they're under attack from his knight. I didn't think that was a very good continuation. I felt that playing the bishop continued with my development, and it prevented the double isolated pawns on the open file, which I don't like. Knight C6. The other reason why I'm very hesitant to make this move in the first place is it takes my queen off the D5 square. Right now, I only have my pawn covering D5 and the knight covering D5, and the knight can be taken off right away. But I also feel that this bishop has not been developed yet and could take some time to develop the bishop if I can draw lots of attention to some other areas on the board. Bishop D3, and now I'm losing sight of what I'm supposed to be doing, which is controlling D5. Should have went ahead and played C4, now that I think about it. Knight takes, knight takes. He has the option to push up on the pawn. It gets really complicated, but I think this would have been better. Bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, knight takes. Now that doesn't look very good. I wanted to develop this bishop, and it looks like I need it to protect that pawn. Castle continuing developing. Castle continuing developing. Pawn D6. I still have stronghold at D5. Goes here, but I just wanted to do something, and when you just want to do something, you usually come up with a pretty bad move. Instead of playing, I could have just continued, or ideally forced him to make a decision here. If he moves back, break the pin, take D5, look at C4, do something with the bishop then. So A6 was A3 was probably the proper move. What I actually did was I played for the pin. Now I'm looking at playing to d5. Of course, he's not going to allow that. The other thing that influenced that move, in my prior second round, I was totally demolished with the bishop pair in the endgame. I said, whoa, those bishops were strong, so I thought I'd try it against my opponent. And sure enough, he took off the knight. Now this is probably the big difference between the game that I played and this current game. These are double isolated pawns on an open file. That's going to cause me trouble. Now if I take the knight off, then I accepted pawn weaknesses for nothing. So I protect the pawn and maintain my bishop pair. And now, after the game, you understand what you should have been thinking. I'm still thinking about how can I stop d5 when I really don't have to. If he pushes up d5, I take that off, he takes me off. Now I have my bishops sweeping across the board, which is what I want. Oops, I'm sorry, whose move is it? B takes C, C6, D2, bishop E6. Okay, again, he has his knight, his bishop, and his queen all covering D5. He's threatening to push it up. I only have my pawn covering. It shouldn't matter. I should have played my rook. So if he does push up, pawn takes, possibly bishop takes. I have two pieces on this other pawn. I think it's okay. If I forget about the fact that the d5 square. Now, also when I did this, also giving up the c4 square, which can lead to loss of my bishop pair. So I have to be aware of that and probably just play away from the exchange of my bishop pair. Play the knight over. You have to be in the mindset where you're willing to settle for a long game. It's not really settling, it's just the nature of the game. So instead, I try to protect the d5, which just causes me other weaknesses. Now the bishop is already attacking the pawn, the knight can get on that pawn, and the rook can get on the pawn. And eventually I'd have to exchange off my light squared bishop. It's poorly played. I think that's a very good move by black, because now when he moves out, all three pieces attack that pawn right away. Am I happy with my position? So I play for the immediate win, which wasn't there. I knew it wasn't there, but I played it anyway. I actually think that that makes my move look a little bit better. I should have went with knight to h4 in this position. The thinking is I want to get this in anyway. Now maybe I'll have to move my king first, but that was the play I wanted. Possibly loosen up the position. And the other thing, if I do go after the attack, bishop takes pawn, pawn takes bishop. Well, no, bishop takes pawn. I don't know what the attack was in the first place. Bishop takes pawn, pawn takes bishop, queen threatens mate. Knight comes over, knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, queen takes. Well, I think that would have been a lot better. In actuality, what I did here was h4. I think once I launch the attack, I can push up on the knight that ends up at g6. The problem is this pawn will still be attacking my bishop. I didn't realize that when I did my calculations from this point in the game. Bishop takes pawn, and here we analyze a particular continuation. You have to determine whether or not you can change your mind. At this point, I really couldn't change my mind. I had to go through with it. The other option would have been to take the bishop right away, the rook takes, then the rook is hanging and might be able to create something from there, but it wasn't very likely. Okay, at this point with his capture of my bishop, I'm a piece down. Threatening mate. This was the point of h4 that when the knight comes over, I can attack it, but I forgot my bishop is still under attack. In hindsight, if I take the bishop off right away, he takes my bishop off, I take his pawn off. King is exposed, but it's at very high cost. That would have been a lot better than what I did. What I did was took the pawn first. And that just helps his rook to swing over to the open file and stop my progress. And this was the idea in my head, was that I'd get this push in, but of course, once the rook plays over, the push is gone. G4, I try to recreate it. I actually didn't see this move, but there were other moves that would have been just as good. Now if I push up on the pawn, on the knight, he plays queen takes, check, queen takes, knight takes, knight takes. If I push up, he has the option of just attacking the queen with the knight. That's what I played. If I can simply play out, he takes with check and takes the other pawn, so not very good. The very idea that I came up with was check, which actually gives up all the pressure. Then I take an e5, which is really bad, because all I analyzed was knight takes knight. I get the check there. That's all I looked at. It never occurred to me they would just take it off with the pawn. Needless to say, that was a poorly played game. Moving on to round 5.